This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Henshin Inspection presents Going Ultra. This time I'm talking about Ultraman Blazar Episode 3. The name is Earth Garon. I struggled to remember that title for a second there. Okay, anyway. So, we see the team coming together. We see them training together. We see people get to be impressed by Henri and her physical prowess. She's a fierce little lady who is good at fighting and doesn't like bugs. So we have this Antiglier kaiju. That's probably not the name, but it's not triangular. That's this. This is triangular. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know what the kaiju's name is, but he's a big beetle guy and he sucks energy juice out of these canisters of this like renewable clean energy source that's been found derived from water, which is an interesting little sci-fi concept. But more than that, getting to some story elements, I gotta say I was totally wrong, I guess, about the origins of Blazar, because somebody mentioned in the first episode there was this incident 3 months ago where something crazy happened and Gento did, great heroics, and the guy kind of expresses like I don't know what happened, but it was crazy. He did this. But it's unclear whether or not he became Blazar at that time. He could have. It is inconclusive. What did happen is that while he was helping clear this building during a kaiju attack, a wormhole opened up and Blazar was reaching out towards him, and then Gento, because he's like, his reaction was, I think this is somebody I need to go save. So he goes and runs after the guy and reaches out to him. And he's saying something like, hey, whatever. He's calling out to him, this silhouette of a person in white that he sees. And it turns out that that's how he got through the wormhole or whatever and got connected with Blazar, which is pretty interesting. From a story perspective, or just giving you insight into the character, because the way it's being done, the way Blazar is being done, it's like very real world. It's very subtle. I mean, there's a giant Mecha Godzilla robot that helps them fight kaiju or whatever. But, and yet, it is still very, subtle and very, subdued in the way it's doing things. It's not, I ask that you chant my name. It's not doing that at all. It's doing something a little bit different. And that's probably good because it's the same guy who's headlining the show, right? Anyway, so it's pivoting in this different direction, this more realistic, more grounded direction. And I find that to be interesting. I find it enjoyable, and I don't actually find it frustrating. It's interesting how it's being expressed. And the idea, though, that I was getting to, the idea that, why was Gento chosen? Maybe Gento was chosen because he is willing to sacrifice himself. He's willing to put himself on the line for somebody he doesn't even know. And in this case, the way that it appeared, he wasn't even... the person looked like they were bathed in white light or glowing with white light, and still he thought, I should go rescue this person. And that's somewhere, that attitude, that immediate reaction is something between dumb and brave. It's somewhere between self-destructive and selfless. And maybe that's what the Ultra was looking for. Maybe that's why he was able to connect with Gento. Maybe that's why the wormhole appeared before him. I don't know. I just think it's something kind of interesting to speculate about, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's lots of other stuff that happened in the episode. The mystery behind the kaiju wasn't a big deal to me. It was pretty tatangular. Is that what it was? Tatangular? Anyway, it was, it wasn't supposed to be a mystery, I don't think. And the lady who does, is it Emmy who does the intel? She went and infiltrated this energy plant that has this particular type of energy tank or vat or whatever, where they're pulling this stuff. And her interactions with the the lead scientist guy there were kind of funny because he's like he doesn't get it. He's very much like a not head in the clouds, but he's focused on the science, and all the other stuff falls away for him. He just wants to focus on his facility and on using this technology for good purposes and things like that, and everything else he's kind of clueless, which is funny. So I did like that. That was a good comedic bit. Earth Garon is really cool. I like that they're all training to be they're all training to pilot it, and the guy who's on the comms for whatever reason is a airplane pilot. I don't know if it's a VTOL or what it is. I think it's just like a regular airplane, like a fighter jet. He says to Henri or Emmy, I'm pretty sure it's Emmy. Anyway, he says to one of them, like, yeah, I'm a pilot, but piloting EarthGoron is going to be something entirely different. And the guy who put together EarthGoron and a bunch of their other technology, he knows all about the technical aspects of it, and he knows all the emergency stuff to do with EarthGoron, like if something goes bad on it, which it's a little cute, it's a kid's show, so I get it. Like, the one thing they talked about going bad and how to fix it, that's what they end up fixing when there's an issue with EarthGoron. Although there is a second thing, which is that emergency, I can't remember, it's the Earth Beam comes out of his mouth, and then it's the something tail, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, he ends up shooting, the technical guy ends up telling Henri how to shoot that at the end when there's an emergency. I was almost thinking that we wouldn't get to see Blazar in this episode because of, one, how cool EarthGoron looks and how capable it seems to be. And it is capable, but there was just too much going on. This kaiju was super powerful. It had all this heat energy that it absorbed, or maybe that wasn't until Blazar started fighting it. I don't know. Anyway, it was a problem. It was a problem for them. It was the first time out actually piloting against an actual kaiju, but they showed all this, like, a training montage, which was super cool, about them, like, learning how to think tactically about using EarthGoron in a cityscape against kaiju where there are people and buildings that can be damaged, which was super cool. So they did that in addition to their, like, running around training and, fighting each other, with their guns and stuff. And, like, it's interesting because the show is showing them go through the effort of learning how to do everything and learning how to operate these things so that they have a level of competency that we as an audience can believe, because they are a brand new unit. This isn't, Guts has been going for 80 years. I don't know if Guts went for any long amount of time, but Guts was the first thing that popped in my head. So we don't know how that all works, but I really do like that. I like this harder sci-fi edge to it. I also like how goofy it can be. The kaiju gets too hot because it's like when you're charging your phone, the charger block is all hot because the energy's transferring through it, right? So the kaiju is sucking up all this energy and it's getting all this heat, and he's literally too hot for Blazar to touch, and Blazar is making all these noises and, like, pulling his hands away after touching him, and hotch, 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 and like, that's almost the actual sound he makes. Like, he's basically saying hot, which is very funny. I really dug that. And, like, at some point he's, like, laying on the floor with the kaiju, like, on top of him, rolling around, and he looks pathetic. And it's interesting because we get, like, all this cool fighting with him, where he's doing all his great savage stuff. But then we also get these moments where he's just being, like, really weird, and he's trying really hard, and it looks really dumb or bad, but, like, it kind of makes sense. It's like, well, I guess this must be a really difficult kaiju to fight. Like, I've never tried to fight a kaiju. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it feels like. So, yeah, him rolling around the ground and the thing, I guess that makes sense. So I'm not saying, like, it's, the realism is pulling me. It's just, it's an interesting take. It's an interesting way to do the story and the whole scenario, and, make it a little bit more interesting if you've watched, every Ultraman, and none of them have rolled around pathetically on the floor before defeating the kaiju. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting stuff. Something I noticed is, Gento is with, Henri while she's, fighting the kaiju. And I think it's funny that, because she's a girl, she's, like, disgusted by the kaiju being an insect or bug-like guy. So anyway, that was kind of funny. But anyway, at one point he tells her to use Earthfire. That's what it's called, Earthfire, to take out the kaiju's arm. So, this is gonna be cool. So she aims for its arm and she knocks one of it off, and then it's got little tendrils hanging out of it. And that was really gross and weird, but it was cool because it's like, that's something Blazar would have done if he could, and that's something Gento's telling her to do. So the connection between them, might be stronger than one might expect at first. But yeah. So, little team building stuff happened for the story, and we get to see EarthGoron, and I don't know, it's interesting. It's just kind of, going forward, setting things up little by little. We'll see how this story builds up, and I'm liking it so far.
I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe to keep up with me. Like and share to help me reach more people like you. And go to mjmunoz.com to find your next favorite thing. And don't forget to let your voice be heard. Stories are always better when you're part of the conversation. Until next time, be well. This is MJ, signing out. This has been a Story Over Everything production.